Jesus explains the whore of Babylon and the rejected cornerstone. Chapter 25 on the spiritual conditions in the post-Christian centuries up until the second half of the 19th century. Nota bene, a clarification now for this time, dictated on August 11th, 1862. In the course of my lifetime on this earth, throughout the entire Jewish kingdom, much of the communication of all that I have worked and taught had been forgotten. But for the most part, it had been mixed with the old nonsense, in particular where the explanations of the things and phenomena of the natural world are concerned. So much so that no one had been able to discover the pure truth. Although many quite identical writings, mostly authored by Greeks and Romans, were preserved, partly in the 10 cities in the long and wide valley of Jordan. The approximately 60 cities also belonged thereto, which in my time, but also already before that and after me, until the time of the destruction of Jerusalem and its surroundings, were all mostly inhabited by Greeks and Romans. Partly in Essaea, of which, however, even 1200 years ago no trace could be found, for those people were severely persecuted by pagan Roman Christians, but mostly in the great library in Alexandria. However, consider all those devastating wars and great migrations of the people in half of Asia, the north of Africa, and almost the entirety of Europe. This is because only a short time after my departure, the people, particularly the leaders of the communities, distorted my teaching and mixed it with the old nonsense, because the purest truth from the heavens produced little to no profit for them. As the prophet Daniel, and shortly after me my disciple John, on the island Patmos in his revelation that I gave him, have shown. And that is when I proclaimed, "Good, since you prefer the old, worldly filth instead of my purest gold from the heavens, and since you thereby resemble more and more the dogs, who return to what they have regurgitated, and the pigs, who quickly run back to the pool where they so often cover themselves in filth, the gold from the heavens will be taken from you for a long time. In your distress, darkness, and need, you will languish for me, and death will once again become a great terror for you on earth." And such is the state of things up until this time. Most of the cities and places where writings concerning my many works and teachings were largely available were destroyed and devastated. Only the small Gospels of John and Matthew, to serve as ethics for the people of goodwill, are still somehow linguistically correct and preserved as real documents on my works and teachings. Even the writings of Luke and Mark, as far as he briefly wrote down for himself what he heard from Paul, were preserved, as well as several of the apostles' letters, of which many were lost still, and the revelation of John, although containing a few linguistic errors, which, however, does not diminish any of what is most important for those who are led by me. Of the other teachings concerning the things and phenomena and their characteristics, only few were preserved until this time, here and there, and well hidden. And wherever something was found from the time of the Romans and the Greeks, it ended up in the monasteries, but none of it was ever told to mankind, as it languished in the dark. Nothing was ever proclaimed. Solar and lunar eclipses, comets, and other natural phenomena were not profitable for the priests when it was explained according to the truth. They were soon transformed into forerunners and declarations of punishments that I apparently imposed upon the people, so that the people who were frightened thereby would undertake enormous pilgrimages to the temples, which soon sprouted from the ground like mushrooms, to lay down many bountiful offerings at the feet of the priests. Still, there are many important writings from my time that can be found in the catacombs of Rome and in the papal castles of Spain and Italy, as well as in some corners of the German kingdom. Yet even now, by the great avarice and lust for power and splendor of the whore of Babel, she will not reveal any of it to the people, out of fear and great worry that this would betray her machinations, and that she would have to give a strict account of why she withheld the truth from the people for so many ages. The resulting humiliation from such an action is surely clear to every thinking person, and it truly is not necessary to explain it any further. How long has it been since the four Gospels and the Acts of the Apostles of Luke, the letters of the Apostles, and the revelation of John were strictly withheld from the people, and in several countries they are still withheld from them? How strongly did they resist the light of my lightning bolt of the sciences, that which would once again clearly illuminate, from the east to the west, everything that was and is upon the earth, having occurred 300 years ago already. Its light is shining ever more brightly, so much so that, during this time, even the most secret and hidden chambers of the formerly great and mighty whore of Babel lay open as if in bright daylight. One might rightfully ask and say, yes, how much longer will the whore of Babel make trouble? And I say, that is a pedantic question. Behold the light of my lightning bolt as it grows brighter and mightier every day. How can the old and sinister pagan Babylonian miracle nonsense, whose deceit has been brought to light in its entirety, still compare to the thousands, now completely mathematically proven truths in all the scientific fields and techniques which may be freely used and are accessible to everyone? She will continue to stand for as long as there are still a few old superstitious broads remaining dim from former times, as well as a few hypocritical fanatics who wish to believe the fables of the priests, for as long as those rulers remain in possession of any means to protect the throne of the whore of Babel. But this can and will only last for a short while, for it has been set in motion that the means of those rulers will be taken away, as they were already taken away from many, and who are now without country and people, and must watch how their former activities, efforts, and sinister works go up in smoke and vapor. Say, could the night rule on earth when the sun is already high above the horizon? For this is already the case on earth. The light has become too powerful, and the rulers who formerly revered the darkness, for the sake of their thrones and their indescribably luxurious life, began to understand their great powerlessness amid the invincible power of this light. If they wish to survive, they must now adopt a friendly attitude towards the light they had formerly hated so much. And if they seek to surreptitiously revert to the old darkness once more, the people will realize it. They will refuse to obey them. They will bring great embarrassment upon them and drive them away from their thrones, of which many examples already exist today. My will cannot be resisted, though I leave the people their free will in the particulars, but in general, I am the Lord, and I do not consider the mighty of this earth. The time of light is now, and here, and can no longer be stopped by any earthly power of man. Chapter 26. On the discarded cornerstone. Its time has come. The end of the false prophets. Now has come the time of the cornerstone, which the construction workers, especially those of Babel, have discarded. The one who will now stumble upon this stone will shatter, and the one upon whom the cornerstone will fall will be crushed. This will soon occur, to all of those who wish to put the cornerstone aside and follow the whore of Babel. Oh, how they will soon lament and wail. Yet the rejected cornerstone will not come to their aid. With great patience, and for a long while have I observed the game of the pigs, like the keepers who kept their pigs in Gadara during my time on earth. There were 2 severely possessed men in the old basalt quarry, for Gadara was an old mining city. Who did those 2 possessed men resemble, who were retained with chains and ropes in the big old quarry? When I came, they broke their chains and ropes into pieces, ran at me, and said, "What have we to do with you before the time?" Behold, those 2 may be compared to the old spirit of worldly pursuit, within whom a greater legion of wicked spirits resides. However, since those spirits recognized my most serious will, they asked me to allow them to enter into the pigs, and the 2 were free and glorified me, although the Gadarenes asked me later to leave them, for they were most afraid of me. And so, in the future, the true spirit of the world and his activity will also glorify me, because he was freed from the legion of his evil, selfish spirits by the power of my light. And though those spirits took possession of the pigs, they thereby nonetheless came to ruin in the sea. All the ultramontane servants of the whore of Babel belonged to the pigs. Their filthy, selfish, and imperious striving was openly and clamorously revealed by their concordances, missions, braves, and excommunications. Ever since the time the whore of Babel ruled over the nations and their kings, the legions of evil spirits moved into the aforementioned pigs that jumped into the sea, and at this time most of all. That is why their downfall is assured. The sea is their stubbornness to persist in the old darkness, and to persecute and curse the light within all the branches of science and technology that I now allow to flow forth from the heavens to all the peoples. Behold, that is the sea the pigs are driven into by the wicked spirits that took possession of them, and within which they will find their downfall. They dug a pit for my primordial light from the heavens, to hide it from the eyes of the people, and to keep them in darkness, to their worldly advantage. Yet I freed the light, and now they fall into the pit they themselves had dug, wherein my heavenly light was meant to suffocate and fall to ruin. Now that this is happening, free for all to see, and at the loud behest of all, it is senseless to ask when this will happen. It is easy to realize that this cannot happen in a single moment, any less than the night can suddenly make way for the bright of day. And in this world, everything requires its own time. No man, no matter how great his talents and abilities may be, can be a scientist or an artist in a single day. No fruit of a tree could suddenly be ripe and enjoyed. However, once the trees are full of sap in the near spring and the buds are swelling mightily, then that is certainly a sign that the warm spring and the blissful summer days are close at hand. Some periods of light frost in between will not make a great difference anymore. What the prophet Ezekiel had prophesied in the 14th chapter concerning the punishment of Israel and Jerusalem is now referring to all the works of the false prophets. All of it will and must be destroyed. What the works of the false prophets consist of, and who the Pharisees of the present day are, need not be explained any further to every person capable of coherent thought, for everyone knows the ancient enemies of the light, the truth, and the love out of me. When I myself told the apostles not to judge, damn, or curse anyone, so that the same coming from me would not befall them. Then who gave them the right to judge, condemn, and impose the most terrible and awful curses upon those who, stirred by my spirit, have searched and still are searching for the pure truth? Therefore, they themselves will be thrown into the pit they dug for the many millions of innocent people, and within which their evil works will be judged, relentlessly so, and without mercy, and they will receive their reward. Behold all the continents, and you shall see how the works of the false prophets of the whore of Babel are detested on earth by nearly all those of even a somewhat mature disposition, and in what manner their missionaries are received and regarded. Certainly not as you can read in the deceitful papers that serve the whore of Babel, but quite differently. Only among puerile and wild peoples they still stand a chance for a short time. However, once they show their voracious and imperious tendencies, or when they reveal from underneath their sheep's clothing the easily recognizable wolf, the success of their mission is over and done for, and they must take great care to escape unscathed and save their skin. How often did they send their most daring missionaries to China and Japan, where there is much gold, silver, and other treasures to be found. For as long as they did not take off their sheep's clothing, they were tolerated, and they attracted many to themselves, for the sake of the alleged teaching of heavenly peace. But as soon as they, as is customary to say, were getting warm, and their sheep's clothing became uncomfortable to them, believing they now could act freely according to their true inner appearance, they were immediately recognized for all the things they truly sought. They were taken hold of and given their well-deserved reward. When the news were received in Babel concerning their deserved, terrible fate, they were declared holy with great glamour and glitter, despite the fact that I myself have said and taught that only God is holy. To such holy ones I say only this: I do not know you, and have never known you. So depart from me, and seek your salvation and reward with those in whose name you have preached and acted. For you never preached, and even less so acted in my name. For ever since your childhood you never accomplished a deed of true brotherly love, as I have taught. For you never believed in me, merely abusing my name to your worldly advantage. That is why you cannot expect any reward or mercy from me. Now, go to those whom you have served, and demand your reward from them.